Welcome to this presentation on the surgical technique for biologic footprint reconstruction using biologic tuberoplasty for rotator cuff repair. The procedure begins with the establishment of a posterior portal for initial access, followed by the creation of an anterior midglenoid portal. In this case, we observed a full thickness rotator cuff tear. The long head of the biceps tendon is intact, as is the subscapularis tendon. The quality and tension of the remaining rotator cuff tissue are then carefully assessed to determine if a primary repair is feasible. In this scenario, the tissue demonstrates poor mobility and insufficient quality to support a durable repair, making a biologic footprint reconstruction the most appropriate option. The greater tuberosity is prepared using a 4 mm arthroscopic burr. Next, 3 knotless 2.6 mm fiber tack anchors are placed. To determine the appropriate graft size, an arthroscopic ruler or an SCR guide can be used to measure the anterior, posterior, and medial lateral dimensions of the tuberosity footprint. In this case, an SCR guide was utilized following medial anchor placement. The repair sutures from the anchors are then passed to the rotator cuff tissue using a scorpion suture passer. For improved reduction, luggage tag traction sutures can be applied. To facilitate suture management, a passport button cannula is used, ensuring clear organization and preventing suture entanglement. Attention is then turned to graft preparation. On the back table, a 4 mm thick Arthroflex human dermal allograft is trimmed to the measured dimensions, typically around 16 mm by 12 mm. Using a sterile marker, the medial border of the graft is marked for orientation. Suture tapes are placed in a luggage tag configuration. Starting at the posterior medial corner, a 1.3 mm Tiger Link black and white suture tape is placed. This is followed by the posterior lateral corner, where another Tiger Link is similarly applied. Next, at the anterior medial corner, a 1.3 mm fiber link blue and white suture is passed using a simple stitch configuration, ensuring a loop is positioned underneath the graft for proper orientation during the procedure. Finally, a fiber link suture is placed in a luggage tag configuration at the anterior lateral corner, completing the preparation for effective graft placement. With the graft from the field, the anterior repair suture is passed through the fiber link loop at the anterior medial corner and shuttled through, replacing the suture tape. This is repeated in the posterior medial corner using the Tiger Link loop. After both sutures are through the graft, they are loaded into the shuttle links. The graft is then introduced into the shoulder. Following graft placement, the native rotator cuff tissue is repaired. The suture tape previously passed through the rotator cuff are retrieved and loaded into 4.75 mm Swivelock SP anchors. These are placed in the lateral row, securing the graft and cuff tissue in a double row construct. Outlet sutures can be used in the lateral row anchors for additional graft fixation if desired. Here we observe the final construct, a double row rotator cuff repair with graft augmentation. Repair integrity is confirmed by taking the shoulder through a range of motion under arthroscopic visualization. This concludes the surgical technique for biologic tuberoplasty with rotator cuff repair. Thank you for watching.